Hello, fellow humans, and Happy New Year if it's already happened to you, and, whatever. Thanks for joining me today. I never say that, but, whatever. So, tonight, which is Thursday, December 31st, I'm going to be on the Zooms at Angel City Zen Center, aczc.org, from 8 p.m. Pacific time till midnight, doing our little New Year's Eve thing. And at 9:10, that is 10 past 9, I'm going to give a talk. And I'm going to talk about one of the things that Dogen says about New Year's in Dogen's extensive record. But since Ziggy is upset because my girlfriend's dad is over there taking some yard trimmings out of the yard, so that's bothering him. Anyway, so Dogen says a lot of things about New Year's in here because this is a book full of talks, mostly very short talks, some of them no more than a few sentences, that Dogen gave at Eiheiji. Eiheiji being his temple that he had the last few years of his life that he established in Fukui Prefecture, which was then called Echizen, but now is called Fukui Prefecture. You can still visit Eiheiji. And so these are talks he gave at various times to monks who lived at Eiheiji, and of course New Year's was one of the times. And these are the talks he gave. Sorry about the leaf blowers and things. I'm never going to get this done if I wait for the leaf blowers to end, so I really apologize for that too. Anyhow, let me just read some of these to you. I haven't chosen which one I'm going to read tonight, but it probably won't be one of the ones I'm going to read now, but maybe it will be. But let's see. I just thought I'd read them to you without too much comment and see where we get. Here's one. It's called New Year Blossoms. I don't think he titled these. I think the translators titled these. And it is the New Year's Dharma Hall Discourse of 1242. As the heavenly sky is vacant and clear, oneness attains oneness and is undefiled. The earth is covered with nourishing moisture, penetrating 1,000 and soaking 10,000. The footnote says, the earth covered with humidity recalls the common Buddhist image of Dharma rain nurturing all things, described, for example, in Chapter 5 of the Lotus Sutra. Okay? How is it right at this time? After a pause, Dogen said. So these are compiled, I think, by Eijo, so he gives little things explaining what Dogen did. News of spring spreads harmony, and the entire world is fragrant. The deity of spring sits immovably in the Cloud Monk's Hall. On each branch, flowers bloom with coral color. The blossoms of the world open, and this is a heavenly realm. That's nice. And the reason he's talking about blossoms and things is because the Japanese in those days celebrated what we often call in this country Chinese New Year, which happens in the middle of February and is supposed to be the beginning of spring. Now, we don't consider that to be the beginning of spring in our culture, but they just that's how they figured it then. Sorry, I had to stop the video back then because I had a brain fart, is what my friend calls them. The umes, I was right the first time. The plum blossoms bloom in spring, spring meaning Japanese spring, which is February, and that's the kind of blossoms he's talking about. And of course the very famous cherry blossoms blossom in what we think of as spring, which is like April or sometimes as early as March. So that's what he's talking about there. These the blossoms that blossom in the winter just as it starts to get the days a little bit longer and possibly a little less cold. So that's what he's talking about there. And here is another one from 1243. Buddha's Dance and Blossoms Open. Again, the titles are probably added by the translators. The sky covering is clear and moisture covers the earth. So it is said. Buddhas as numerous as the sands of the Ganges dance to exalted music, and throughout the entire world the blossoms on the branches facing south immediately open. And this thing about exalted music is apparently a reference to a popular piece of music in Chinese in the Wei dynasty. So, yeah, I guess you needed to know that, but that's what the translator says here. I am delighted that the spring deity has unlocked the time, and spring clouds and water, i.e. monks, clouds and water means monks, are coming. This one is a little bit longer. This is the New Year's Dharma Hall Discourse in 1246, and they've titled it Fishing for a Person. Here is a saying: The ancient Buddha Hongji, while residing at Kyantong in a New Year's Dharma Hall discourse, said, "In New Year's morning Zazen, the myriad things are natural. Mind after mind is beyond dichotomies. Buddha after Buddha manifests presently. The snow on the river is completely pure and white. The son of Jie is satisfied in his fishing boat. Study this." And the son of Jie, according to the footnote, is a reference to Xuansha Shibei, who I believe is the guy who stubbed his toe. I always learned it as Gensha in Japanese, but I think it's the same person, but don't quote me on it. See the Dharma Hall Discourse, blah, blah, blah. Then the teacher Dogen said, "This morning I, Daibutsu," that's what he called himself sometimes, "respectfully continue this poem." After a pause, Dogen said, now this is going to be his continuation of a poem that was not by him. "This great auspicious New Year's morning I enjoy Zazen. In accord with this occasion, offering congratulations is natural." So I should stop and explain that the standard word to say for New Year's or birthday or Christmas or anything is omedeto, which is usually translated as congratulations, but really I'm not sure it really means congratulations. These translators decided to make it congratulations. It's more like a New Year's greeting is what he's talking about, not congratulations. Anyhow, just a little quibble there. "Mind after mind, the spring faces laugh with delight. Buddha after Buddha pulls the oxen around before our eyes. Presenting an auspicious sign over a foot of snow covers the mountain. Fishing for a person, fishing for a self, on the fishing boat." And now here's another one, 1247, and it's a bit similar to the one from 1246. "Delighted with Zazen" is the title. Dogen quoted the words of Zen Master Hongju about New Year's morning. I think it's Hongju and not Hongji, but anyway. A New Year's morning Zazen, the same as in the previous year, so I guess that's the one we just read. After a pause, Dogen said the following. "On this great auspicious New Year's morning, I am delighted with Zazen. Patched-robed monks engaging the way are peaceful just as they are. Each person is joyful and at ease with a spring-like face." And they mention that New Year's is in the beginning of spring. That's the footnote there. "Noses and eyes manifest presently. The snow on the river is completely pure and white. The mind of the son of Jie is satisfied on his fishing boat." Again, that is another reference to Gensha or Xuansha, and how he was a fisherman before he became a monk. Again, I'm not sure exactly what he means by that. Maybe if I got more into it, I would know. The next one is really long, so I'm just going to read you the first paragraph of it, and maybe this will be the one I'll do tonight when we talk about it, because I'll need a longer one. This is called "Dwelling Thoroughly in the Mountains. Informal meeting on New Year's Eve." So this is different from what we just read before, which were more, I think, public talks, and this would be maybe meetings with the monks themselves, just the monks and nobody else. "Great assembly. With more than 300 pieces of empty sky, I can buy one branch of plum blossoms at the end of the 12th month, which, with auspicious clouds at the top of the cliff and the moon above the cold valley, contains spring and warmth, promising sounds of laughter. Study of the way should directly follow the Dharma manner of ancient Buddhas and previous ancestors. A deceased elder, Dogen Koncha, said we should direct ourselves toward how the Tathagata practiced." That's meaning Zazen. "Which is the same meaning. Clouds and water, brothers." Clouds and water means monks. "You have departed far from your home villages and have forever put aside family and kin. Completely forget trying to control fame and fortune or right and wrong. Although you should diligently study the details of our practice, activity, and each and every dignified manner, first we must study the single affair of the ancient Buddha ancestors. That is abiding in the mountains." So he was real big at this point in his life about being a monk and living in the mountains away from other people. So again, maybe if I studied it for a year or so, I could figure out all the allusions and everything and try to give you a sense of what he means by that. But, these are just interesting things. I hope you're enjoying it so far. Here's another one. This one doesn't have a date. This is another informal meeting on New Year's Eve. After expressing appreciation for the temple administrators, monastic department heads, and the great assembly, Dogen said, "Bodhisattvas arouse the mind of awakening and enter the kitchen. The nostrils are well pierced, and the rice is fragrant." The nostrils are well pierced is a allusion to taming an ox, and the monks like to think of themselves as tamed oxen. They like to think of themselves as things that would have caused a lot of trouble, but their training tamed them, and now they're tame oxen. So that's why the nostrils are well pierced, because you pierce their nostrils to put that ring through it. With the monks again and again carrying water and gathering firewood, I become aware that Eiheiji is a great practice place. I can remember a monk asked Zhao Zhao, "Two mirrors face each other. Which is brighter?" Zhao Zhao said, he's a great old Zen master, I believe Joshu is the Japanese pronunciation. Zhao Zhao said, "Elder monk, your eyelids cover Mount Sumeru." And there is a footnote here, but the footnote is useless. It just says, see the recorded sayings of Zen Master Joshu, page 118, which I don't have, so good for me. Suppose this were Eihei, that's me, suppose it were me, and someone asked me, "Two mirrors face each other, which is brighter?" I would simply face him and, holding up my staff, say, "This is a monk's staff." Nice answer. Suppose he said to this old man, himself, who would be in his mid-40s by then, so old man. People in their mid-40s were kind of considered old people in those days. "This is what you were able to study on the long monk's platform. What is the way of going beyond Buddha ancestors?" This is, he's imagining somebody's asking him that. Then, Eijo cuts in and says, "Dogen threw down his staff, descended from his seat, and said, 'I respectfully hope you will take good care.'" So he dropped the mic and left the stage. Okay. And here is another informal meeting at New Year's Eve. This one is called Solid Rock at the Gate. Now, this is another one I have no idea what the hell he's talking about, but I'm just going to read it to you. Here's the story. Yao Shan asked his disciple Yunyan, "Aside from your staying with Baizhang, where else have you been before coming here?" Yunyan said, "I have been to Guangnan." Yao Shan said, "I have heard it said that the round rock outside the east gate of the city of Guangzhou was shifted by the lord of the city. Is that so?" Yunyan said, "Not only the lord of the city, but even if all the people in the entire country tried, they could not move it." And the footnote says, this story appears in Keitoku Dentoroku, Transmission of the Lamp, Volume 1, blah, blah, blah. Yunyan's staying with Baizhang refers to the story about Yunyan being Baizhang's personal attendant for 20 years, but still not understanding. Finally, Yunyan succeeded to Yao Shan, although there were still questions about his understanding. See Thomas Cleary's books, Transmitting the Light and Book of Serenity. There you go. Yao Shan and Yunyan have talked like this. This is what Dogen is saying now. "Can I, Eihei, himself, can me, avoid speaking? Not only the lord of the city, not only the entire country, but if all the Buddhas of the 3 times and all the ancestral teachers were to use all their strength trying to shift it, it would not budge. Why is that so?" After a pause, Dogen said, "Each and every thing as such has no inside or outside. Every particle is firm, set in samadhi. How wondrous and amazing! The entire body is bright and glittering beyond the value of jewels." So that's it. I said I didn't understand it at all. I kind of get what he's after here about the no inside and outside. He's talking about oneness and all this stuff, and it's interesting. Maybe I'll talk about that one tonight. Who knows? And let's see, the last one. I love this title, "Springtime for a Buddha." Like the song in The Producers. Guizong Hui Chao asked Fa Yan Wenyi, "What is Buddha?" Fa Yan said, "You are Hui Chao." And now we get a poem by Dogen. Calling on Hui Chao, spring on New Year's Eve, Hui Chao turned his head, no dust on the mirror. How splendid! Fa Yan held the function. Before a word was over, Buddha changed to a spirit. Yeah, there you go. That's another one. There's a lot of literary allusions in that, and well, it gets complicated. But there you go. I'm going to talk about one of those, or maybe I'll talk about the one that I skipped because it's a really long one. That's one of the few long things in Dogen's extensive record. I am sorry about all this noise in the background. I've stopped and started this video a half dozen times, and still it goes on. But anyway, I hope you have a good New Year. If you want to donate something for me to have New Year's cheer with, you can go to the URL you're seeing below and you'll find links to my PayPal and Patreon. That is my only source of income. Well, pretty much. I get a little bit of book royalties, and I did like 2 speaking gigs on Zoom this year. Not big paying ones either. But that is my main way of making my money. If you are having trouble financially, do not donate to me, please. Because I'm all right, you know, it's working out. But it's working out because some people do donate, and I really appreciate you, and I thank you a lot. See you later. Have a good time all the time. See you next year. Bye. Ooh, 3 fingers. 5 fingers.